Hey, everybody, it's your girl Truett.
Hey, you can't say that. This is my channel. That's my line. I'm the one who says that. You can't do that. What are you trying to take over my YouTube channel, girl? What's wrong with you? My goodness gracious. Anyway, so as you can tell, this video is going to be a little bit different tonight. So what I want to do is, if you haven't seen the two videos I did with our kids, the first one I did was called The Greatest Lesson My Son Ever Taught Me. And the second video I did was The Greatest Lesson My Daughter Ever Taught Me. So I thought it was very, very fitting that I did a video with Chelsea. And, you know, they say the third time is a charm. So I really wanted to give Chelsea an opportunity to share something about her life, something about her story. And for me, it's one of the things that I've noticed about her the most, being together with her for 16 and a half years and just celebrated 15 years of marriage. So I feel like there's a lot of things that she has, just powerful testimonies and just specifics of things that she's gone through, that she has gone through, that she can help somebody else with. So I'm going to read a few Bible verses leading to a point, and then I'm going to let her take the floor and just kind of let her share her story how she wants to tell you. So in Philippians chapter 1, verse 6, it says, being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it out unto the completion until the day of Jesus Christ. Being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it out to completion until the day of Jesus Christ. So when I read that verse, it really screams to me, this echoes Chelsea's life, and this echoes this verse, is what God started in your life, he will complete, he will finish it. So don't quit. Don't give up. Don't throw in the towel. No matter how hard life is, no matter how hard what you're going through, no matter what you're dealing with, don't give up, because God promises us over and over and over that he will be with us always. He will never leave us as orphans, and he will always be with us. So that should be our motivator in life, to keep going, to never quit, because he's always with us. Psalm 27:13 and 14 says, I remain confident of this. And you see these two verses, Philippians 1 and Psalm 27, one's in the Old Testament, one's in the New, and they both use the word confidence. So our confidence needs to be in God. Our confidence does not need to be in ourselves, because sometimes if our confidence is in ourselves or in other people or in other groups, people will let us down. We'll let ourselves down. Other people will definitely let us down. We've all been in situations where we've been emotionally wrapped up with somebody, friends, family, whoever, and they've hurt us, they've let us down, and we felt like giving up just because of the way we were treated by people. But the Bible points out over and over again about having confidence in the Lord, not in other people. I remain confident of this. I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord, be strong and take heart, and wait for the Lord. So in this Old Testament verse, he's saying, wait on the Lord. We can't wait on him if we've given up. We must continue to wait on him, not give up, and not let go of his promises. Philippians chapter 4, verse 13, one of the most popular verses on the planet. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And if we think about this verse, I can do all things through him who gives me strength. That points out not quitting, because if we quit, honestly, there's not much he can do in our life. But what if we hold on to him, hold on to our promises, don't quit, don't let go of the faith that we have in him. There's nothing that God can't do in our life. There's another part of the Bible that said there is nothing impossible for God. But for us, it is simple. Don't quit. We don't have to change everything. We don't have to make everything happen. All we have to do is keep the faith and not give up. 1 Corinthians 9:24 through 27 says, do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one gets the prize? Run in such a way as to get the prize. Everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training. They do it to get a crown that will not last, but we do it to get a crown that will last forever. Therefore, I do not run like someone just running aimlessly. I do not fight like a boxer beating the air. No, I strike a blow to my body and make it my slave, so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified for the prize. And again, this Bible verse is telling us to don't quit. Runners run a race to win. We need to run the race of faith as to win the prize of having, being with Jesus forever. And to me, that just literally screams, don't quit. Don't give up. 2 more verses and I'll shut up. Isaiah chapter 41, verse 10. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Don't be dismayed, for I'm your God. I will strengthen you and I will help you. If that doesn't scream, don't give up, don't quit, I don't know what else does. Lastly, Hebrews 11:16. But without faith, it is impossible to please him. For he who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. Not for those who give up, not for those who quit, because there's other parts of the Bible where Jesus said, if you put your hand to the plow and then you look back, you're not worthy of me. This is saying that if we are going to come to God, we must believe that he is, and that he rewards us for diligently seeking him, constantly seeking him, not giving up, not quitting, always believing that he can do a miracle in our life. So with that being said, Chelsea, I'm just going to be quiet and I'm just going to let you tell your story, tell you, and it's all yours, girl.
You can do that?
I'll do it this time, I promise.
Okay. Trying to get all my thoughts together. It's been a fun, long day. So kind of not wanting to get into detail about some of the things that go along with my testimony. I'm going to kind of hit on basically one main subject that's kind of in the forefront in a lot of series, a lot of videos, such as like YouTube, Facebook posts, different things. Everyone's talking about mental health. It's like, it's a really big thing, which, I agree with. I believe it's very important to focus on. As a mom with 2 kids that deal with different aspects of mental disabilities, one with autism and one with ADHD, we focus on a lot of that. But one thing that I have dealt with, as long as I can remember, is depression. Now, we talk about depression like a situational depression. I'm not talking about situational depression. We've been through situations, loss of our son, grandparents, aunts, like just tragic friends, those types of things. So we deal with those differently. The only way that I used to explain it is, for me, depression was as if everything in my life was going wrong when nothing was actually going wrong. It felt debilitating, devastating, and it would come and go. It would, the feelings of euphoria or happiness, it was kind of up and down. I didn't have a whole lot of that. I didn't understand happiness a lot. As early as I can remember, I think my first feelings that I can associate with was probably around 9 years old. They called it clinical depression. I was diagnosed at 16. We knew way early on, or I did, that something was going on. But my parents had never dealt with mental illness. There had never been depression. They'd never dealt with it. It's not something that was really talked about openly. So it wasn't something they dealt with. Wasn't something that they understood. So after my sister passed away, when I was 16, she was 14, they started noticing my behavior more, started noticing things were going on with me, things I would say and do, and started realizing, okay, something's not right. I went to my mom one time after I had a massive blow up, all this things, just we had it out. And I told her, I said, I don't want to be this way. I don't like this. I don't want to be this way, but I cannot control it. I don't understand. And suicidal thoughts, not, I don't know if I'd say coward, because that's definitely not it. I think it was more fearful of eternity. I didn't know what would happen. And so I truly believed in God, and I believed in right and wrong. So trying to understand right and wrong, understand the faith, understanding the love of a father, understanding all of that when you have depression that you don't understand, that you can't explain, that is, it's like a dark hole and you don't know how to get out. You can't figure it out. So I told my mom, and she is kind of like, okay, yeah, we're going to go see a doctor. So we went to the doctor, they put me on meds, and my parents said that I was night and day different. I was their girl again. So I kind of dealt with that for a while, on and off of meds for a really long time. I didn't like being on meds, not because I didn't like the meds or the way they made me feel, but because I just didn't like being on a medication. So when I got older, let's say into marriage, friendships, all these different things, I dealt with it a lot. There's things that thoughts, moments that me and God share that anything that was a setback was debilitating. I mean, I'd put myself in my closet and just cry. Nobody understood. Nobody knew. Nobody knew what was going on. It wasn't something that was public. On the outside, people thought that everything was great. Our life was perfect. I had a loving husband. I had 2 beautiful kids. I seemed to be rocking it as a special needs mom. Like, my parents are great. I had a great childhood. I had a much better childhood than most of the people that I know. I was very blessed. Like, we're not hurting financially. We're like, everything's beautiful and wonderful, but I can't get out of the thought that it would be better if I wasn't here. That is a scary place to be. And it's really scary for my family. And I remember my mom when I was younger. Mom didn't always say the best things when it came to my depression, but she didn't have an understanding. And so I think that's really important where we come to mental health awareness, is an understanding of looking for things. We've talked about it since, and my parents understand. They're amazingly supportive once they started understanding what supportive meant. But was she said, we were talking about somebody else, and she said, suicide is the most selfish thing that you could ever do. And that hit me. That hit me really hard. I think I was a teenager, because it is literally thinking of yourself and your feelings more than those around you. And so that always came back to me. Not that I didn't try different things, never enough to come to fruition, obviously, but it scares me how close sometimes I came. I was a believer, but at the time I was a believer. I was fighting and dealing with this as a believer, as someone who believed in the Lord. This is something that hit me, and I was like, obviously I'm not a real Christian. Obviously, I mean, it's just all these things. Like, the enemy finds what you're dealing with, and he constantly digs and digs and digs. It's an open wound, an open sore. And until that sore is dealt with, he's going to constantly get you to pick at it. He's going to pick at it, send people to pick at it. It's something that's just completely open. It's really hard. So throughout my whole adult life, I did different things. I did different therapies. I did, church, all kinds of stuff. It wasn't really something I talked to my family a ton about. They were aware, just because they could tell when I was having issues. But it's hard to understand why someone is depressed when there's not really a reason. Clinical depression is not a reason. It's not a thing. It's not, oh, her mom passed away and so now she's dealing with that grief. This was, yeah, we've had grief things my whole life. My sister died at 16, and a couple of years after that I had my, it was like my aunt died and then my uncle died. Or it was my uncle and then my aunt and then my, and then it was my grandfather and then it was another aunt, and it was just like go, 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 all these different things that happen, and I could go on and on, but it's like, through all of that, one thing that I went through in high school was I had to go through the decision, do I believe in God outside of my parents? So I went through that whole thing. I was living in Maryland. I was in a school that was 100% different than the ones that I had been in before, but it was very I was made fun of because I claimed to be a Christian. Literally people didn't talk to me. Oh, she's a Christian, just don't even bother. And that was the first time experiencing that. I had been made fun of and treated badly and not talked to and had people stop speaking to me because I was white, but not because I was a Christian growing up. And so I didn't understand that. I didn't understand. So I just got to researching and looking, do I believe this? So I finally got to the point that yes, in high school, I believe this because I believe. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus and the Holy Spirit because I believe it. Then moving into college, that's when I had to get to, do I believe in the workings of the Holy Spirit the way I was raised? Do I believe in the full workings of the Holy Spirit, tongues and healings and all of these things? Do I believe these things? Prophecies and dreams and all these, do I believe these things? I had to decide that. And it was forced upon me. It wasn't exactly me going, you know what, I think I'm going to decide whether I believe this. No, it was a situation where I had to decide because it was going to decide a life path for me. And I came to the conclusion that I did believe. And I did research and I talked to my pastor from back home, and I really looked in the Bible to decide, do I believe in the workings of the Holy Spirit the way I was raised? And I came to the conclusion that I did. But through all of this, I'm dealing with depression. All of this. Dealing with depression for a very long time. How many times I went to the altar and I cried my eyes out. God, why do you not love me like you love everybody else? Why can I sit here and watch someone who has addicted to God knows what, lay their needles on the altar and walk away and never use again? But I have something that I've never picked up myself that, that I know of. I mean, I don't know, what did I do? I was 9, so why? And that's a constant question that we ask ourselves because it's a comparison game. We get in that, why do you love them more? Why do they matter more? Why this? And that's not how God thinks. And so going through all of that, going through that, wondering, would my kids be better off with a different mom? Those are questions. Would my husband do better? Because if I wasn't in the way, then he could find better. He could do better. These are questions. These are thoughts. And I'm being raw and I'm being honest because if somebody is going through something like this, I want them to understand that this is not something that you have to be afraid of. You have to be ashamed of, because it's something that needs to be talked about. It's something that needs to be shared so that people see that they're not alone, so that they can get prayer and understand that you don't give up, because freedom may not come in the time that you expect it to. But for me, years asking God, why? Why do I have this? Why is this on me? Why do I end up, feeling like I'm completely worthless and useless and not worthy constantly when other people don't have that problem? Why do I have to go through all of that? And why, all these things? And I don't even have questions. I don't even answer to those questions. I don't have an answer to why. But I truly believe that if we understood why to all of our questions, what would be the point of worshiping and following an almighty God if we knew better than he did, or if we knew as much as he did? Like, I don't believe that we would. I believe that we as human beings have to have faith that our God knows better than we do. And that's the only way I got over the loss of my son, is sitting here going, okay, God, I'm not okay with it. Being able to talk to him like that and being like, okay, I'm a little pissed at you. I'm just going to be honest. I'm mad at you. This is not okay with me. It's not okay. None of this is okay. I don't know why I'm dealing with this. I don't know why, but I'm only have faith that you know better than I do. And if I believe in you, then I have to believe that you know better than I, because I'm not going to worship and follow a Lord that is as intelligent as I am. I have a hard time with that, because I feel like I need to have faith in something that is above anything that I could ever comprehend. Mm-hmm. And so progress to just recently, in the past year or so, past couple years, I really felt like God was kind of doing something. I started calling things out. I started saying, okay, I called out and kind of rebuked things off of my life. I no longer thought of it as my depression. I thought of it as depression I'm dealing with. I started cutting these things off of my life, rebuking these things off of my life. And I don't know if it was something that I rebuked off of my life, or if it was something that God healed. Either way, I believe it's a healing, one way or the other. But for me, I know that it came down to me calling it what it was. That I was no longer claiming it as part of who I was, familiarity. I was no longer willing to accept that. And I accepted that it wasn't permanent. I had come to accept it was permanent previously. This is just part of who I am. I'm going to deal with this forever until God takes me or I take me. And that's not somewhere that you want to be. It's not somewhere you want to stay. And that was like, it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to stay there. And that's how it felt. I always felt like I was just staying there. And it was like, sometimes I was really good, but then I focused a lot of my happiness is very fickle, but I focused a lot of it, I realized, around Justin, and that's extremely unhealthy. It's unhealthy in a marriage. It's unhealthy for you. It was extremely unhealthy for me to focus any kind of happiness on my husband, on other. That's not his responsibility. It is not his responsibility to give me joy. That's God's responsibility. That is his responsibility to build joy, me to connect with the Lord and find that joy within him. So I focused on that. I focused on being able to find my joy through the Lord and not relying on my husband for that. Because whenever him and I were having an issue, if there was an argument, a fight, a breakdown, anything, we've been, please. That's another episode. Yeah. But we've been together 16 years. We've had issues. We're both extremely strong personalities. There's no way that this was not gonna. I always joke that God threw us together and said, "Let's see what happens here." But whenever things weren't great with us, like I always joked, it's me and you against the world. But if there was anything wrong here, my world was over, and I didn't. It's not healthy. It's not okay. And so when I'd say about earlier this year, I had been on meds for a while, anxiety and depression meds. And I just come to the realization that, kind of like having diabetes, if something is wrong inside your body, like we live in a broken world, okay? Everything is not going to work perfectly, which means your body's not always going to work perfectly. There's ways that we can, through food and through fasting and all these other things, that we can work through things. But there's some things that happen and you just have to deal with them. And so I just chalked my mental situation up to something just is not connecting properly. And I'm going to take a med to help us. Thank God for being in the 2000s.
Before you get on the medicine part of your story, let me ask you one question.
Okay.
You dealt with depression at a really, really early age. You mentioned your sister passing away, and you had 2 grandpas pass away, multiple, aunts pass away. Do you think at the earliest age, starting with your sister, do you think losing your sister, did that cause it to happen worse? Did it just shine a light on something that was already there? How did losing your sister and then moving forward and growing up and getting older, teenager and older, how do you think that affected you specific? Because the reason I ask you that is, to me, there's nothing worse than that type of situation. Losing somebody you love so dearly. I mean, that's just a situation that's not comparable to any other situational depression, like you said. So how do you...
It definitely shined a light on it more because I had issues well before that. So I would say shine a light on it to where it's more aware, for my parents were more aware, because they didn't have anything else but me to focus on at that point. And in their grief, the year after she passed away was a blur. It was a blur for all of us. But that's when my dad retired from the Marine Corps. So everything in our life changed. We were down a member. We didn't have she was kind of that shining light, I was she was very opposite of me. Okay. I was thick and big boned. She was skinny, and then she was sweet and quiet and, loving and all, about Jesus. And I was loud and in your face and had an attitude. So it was like, yeah, it's still there. So like, I always thought my mom, that my sister was my parents' favorite, but I since realized it had nothing to do with favorites. It had to do with she's just easier to get along with than me. But, that's since changed. My parents are my best friends. So it's not, I was more difficult. I was. And so when she passed away, it was devastating for all of us. But I think, depression wise, it just shined a light. I think it was hard, but, it was easier for me, I think, to cope with it because I saw my parents coping with things in more of a healthy manner. I say healthy because grief is hard to say what's healthy and what's not healthy because people do it differently. But like my parents, they clung to each other. And I can't remember where I read it. They said 80-something% of people, of couples that lose a child, divorce. And so they lost a daughter who was 14. So it's not like they were in the middle of raising her. You know what I mean? They only had 4 more years and she was in college. She wanted to be a veterinarian. She was planning on going to Auburn. But anyway, it would have been good for her. But it's okay. It's okay. But anyway, she was planning on, she had plans and I had not a clue. Not a clue, like all these things. But I don't think it ramped anything up. I think it made us more aware of the fact of what word to call it. It was depression at that point, if that makes any sense. Does that answer the question?
Mm-hmm.
Sort of. Okay. So, get into the meds. I've been on meds for a while. They usually helped. Not always. Sometimes there was breakthroughs, but it also took away a lot of highs. So it kind of like there was no highs, there was no lows. I was in the middle. It wasn't bad. It wasn't good. It was just didn't feel really, 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 really super happy, excited. Woo, everything's amazing. And I didn't get the lows. It was worth it to not get the lows. I had kids. I've got special needs kids that stuff that I've got to deal with. So I was like, I don't have time for that. I just, there's things I had to give up because I couldn't deal with certain things. I was trying to go to nursing school, dealing with working full time. Then I changed to go to occupational therapy assistant school, and then working full time at the hospital doing that. Had 2 kids. Kaylee was going to therapy. Justin was working. My parents still had kids in the house because they adopted 4 kids when I was graduating high school. So it's like
all while dealing with depression.
All of it. all of it. And so I had a complete breakdown. And so my mom looked at me and was like, why are you doing this? What is your purpose? Okay, let's go back to the basics. What is your purpose right now? What is the most important thing? So I ended up having to quit school. I hated it because I've never quit anything in my life. Not like that. Not on purpose. Like, not to where I didn't finish. Like, start a semester, end a semester. This is not really for me. That's one thing. No, it was right in the middle of the semester. I had to withdraw. I was done. I still have a hard time with that sometimes, but it's fine. But God knew what he was doing. I don't know why. I don't know if my testimony is supposed to help somebody. I don't know if it's just something that I'm supposed to share, something that my husband or my kids are supposed to see me walk through. I don't know. But at that time around that time is when we got Kaylee's autism diagnosis. So Judah was a newborn. Kaylee was just about getting diagnosed, and I didn't know what to do. I don't know how to raise a child with autism. I have no clue. I barely even know what autism is besides TV. I don't know. And so I jumped in. They sent her to occupational therapy, speech therapy. So I'm like in a new world. It's a whole new community. And unless you're part of this community, you have no clue. It's a whole different thought process, lifestyle. Like, you've got to go to meetings to put your kid in school, not fill out forms. I'm talking about legit meetings, sign legal documents to put your kid in school. So this is night and day different. I had no clue. Come back to the meds thing. I started feeling like, okay, maybe, it's time for me to come off the meds and see what happens. But I was terrified. Is the only way I could describe it. Terrified of what was going to happen. I didn't know. I didn't want that to come back. I didn't want that feeling, that dread, that darkness to come. I didn't want that to come back. And the only thing I knew that was helping that was the meds. I was just terrified. And I had been praying and praying and praying and praying for God to release this from me, heal me for years and years. As long as I can remember, I've been praying for God to heal me. And to have faith and to not see results is hard. It is hard. You go through feelings. Having depression and asking God to heal your depression and then it not happening is really hard because it makes you be depressed because your depression is not healed. So it's like a circle. And then you kind of have it out with God. And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? I'm trying to believe in you and you're over here not doing what you said you'll do and da-da-da-da-da. And so, so then I started feeling like maybe I didn't need to take these meds anymore. Maybe I needed to see, but I was terrified. So earlier this year, I'd probably say 6-7 months ago, something like that, I started really feeling that hard and heavy, like maybe, so then it was time to refill my meds. And I looked down and I went, no, I don't think so. I'm not gonna fill them. And at the time, I've been doing some Christian therapy. Was with a lady that I've gotten to know really well, and that really helped me. And she, I had missed a couple meetings because of scheduling conflicts, and then I came back and I was talking to her about coming off my meds, and she's like, "Oh, well, you really need to titrate off those. You need to take a pill every other day and then half a pill. You don't need to just stop it because you can have withdrawals, all these things." And I was like, oh, well, I've been off of them for 2 weeks. And she's like, wait, what? What are you feeling? What's going on? Is everything okay? And I'm like, I'm fine. Everything's fine. And she's like, that's not typical for nothing to be going on. And I was like, no, nothing. So I start looking up withdrawal symptoms from the med that I was on, and they're like boom, 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 all these things. And I'm like, I'm not having any of these issues. And I know that they're issues. I know it because I had missed a couple pills before because I went to refill. They didn't have it. I had to order. It took 3 days. And I ended up having crazy issues just being off meds for 3 days. dizzy spells, feeling like my head was underwater, like I was drunk, all these things. And they were symptoms of being off those meds without weaning yourself off of them. And I did not wean myself off. It was just one day I had one, and the next day I was completely done. And so I was like, okay, well, let's see how this goes. So she'd check up with me every other week, and I never had a withdrawal symptom, never had a problem. And I've had little things here or there where like a thought will creep in and I'm like, psh, and just push it out and work through things. And so I was like, okay, when was the first time I remember having these things? And I look back and I was 9, and this month I turned 40. So I have been dealing with depression for 30 years. 30 years, and I've been asking God to heal me. And in year 30, I got my healing. I don't know significance of that. I don't know why. I don't know God's answer for that. He has not revealed that to me. He hasn't showed me. But my only thought process is that I never gave up. I never quit. I wanted to, and maybe even tried here or there. But I looked at my family, and I had to do reality. I had to take feelings out of it sometimes and just go kind of on autopilot, because I knew, somehow I knew that God was going to answer my prayer. He was going to take care of it. And so I had to keep going. I had to keep moving forward. And sometimes it was hard. Sometimes it was easy. Sometimes I had to fake it. Sometimes I made it. And I don't know if this will be surprising to some people, but it was really hard sometimes to act like everything was okay when in my mind I didn't even want to be on earth, and I didn't want to be around. And that's hard for me now, because I look at my babies, and they come up and they're like, I love you, Mommy. And I'm thinking, I could have missed that. I could have missed that if I would have given up. I could have missed all these blessings. And we've talked about that with us so many times. There was multiple times in our marriage that we were like, I am done with you. I'm out. You're out. Yeah, please. You were there. You were there. But we stayed and we continued. And there's so many moments since then that we've been able to have the most amazing times as a family, just him and I laughing till we're crying. And I realized I would have missed that. I would have missed all these blessings. I would have missed all these amazing situations if I would have given up. God is not going to take you till he's done with you. So therefore, if you're alive, he's not done. Mm-hmm. And that's how it works. And so I didn't want to take away from what God wanted to do. I don't know what God wants to do, and I don't know if this is even part of what God wants to do with my life. But I do know that this is my life. Mm-hmm. I do know that this was a huge part of it. And I do know that I can honestly tell you that depression is no longer part of my life. Do I deal with sadness and disappointment and issues? Yeah, I deal with that, but I deal with it like everybody else, because it was an on and off moment for me. It was a not healed moment for me. It may not be like that for everybody, but it can be. But giving up is not an option. It cannot be an option. Yep. Because if you're alive, God's not done. No matter if you're addicted to something, no matter if you're dealing with abuse, no matter if you're dealing with depression, suicidal thoughts, all these things, no matter what you're going through, if you're alive, you're not done. And God can turn things around, and God can use it. And it just amazes me how often that we can sit here and say, oh, well, don't even worry about him. Don't even worry about her. She's gone off the deep end. He's gone off the deep end. Well, we don't know that. We don't know where they are with God. We don't know, and I don't make assumptions. I don't make assumptions on people that have committed suicide, or people that, because I don't know where God is on those aspects. And I refuse to make assumptions on someone else's salvation. That's not my business. That's not your business. Our business is between us and God. Our business is to make sure we're right. So in that, I feel like if I can continue going and now see the beauty in things, is everything easy? No. Is everything hunky-dory and all rainbows and, candy canes? No. But I'm able to see the beauty in things more.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've seen the point where I didn't want to continue anymore. I've seen it. I felt it. I know that. That is familiar. And it's no longer part of my life, and I won't allow it. I have to continue. There's sometimes when you can feel it getting close, and you're going, no. And you have to call that off of your life. You have to speak it off your life. You have to. And so that's something I've never thought was so important until I did it, and then boom. God brings healing. And I'm able to sit here and say that if you don't give up, it comes. I don't know how long. Why 30 years? That's a long time. It's a long time. And so I don't know if it'd be 40 for somebody. It could be 10. It could be 40 days. It could be 4 hours. I don't know. But the whole point is not giving up. The whole point is continuing to come to the Lord with your issues, continuing to come back to the Lord. We're all walking a path. We're all going towards eternity with Christ. We're all doing that. You fall off the path, get back on. If you say, do, think, anything, get back on. You have to continue going towards Christ. And that is the biggest thing. I always thought it as a path. And so we talk about taking the wide path towards hell and the narrow path, all these Christianisms, but I've always thought of it as a path, because we joke that as special needs parents, we're on the same path as every other parent. We're just taking the scenic route. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of the same thing. Yeah, all over the place. It's the same thing. I'm constantly wanting to go towards Jesus. Am I perfect in that? No. Am I doing everything that I should do? No. Am I striving to continue to do things I need to do? Yes. And so just keep moving forward. Just keep trying something else. Take the next step. Even if it's just a couple steps from the bed to the couch, do everything that you can to continue making those steps, to continue doing everything that you can towards Christ. Your victory is coming. It's not over. It's not over, and God's not done, and God's not finished, and you're not worthless. If you're breathing, God's using you. Mm-hmm. And you have to have faith in that. So in ending it, Justin talked about this verse. And I love this verse because I kind of feel like it brings it back to Christ. But it's Philippians 1:6. Being confident of this very thing, that he who has begun a good work in you will complete it until the day of Jesus Christ. He will complete it, so don't give up. Jesus will complete it, not you. That's something I had to come to grips with. Yeah. I can't complete it. Christ has to complete that within me. Mm-hmm. 30 years. And it's complete. This work. Not all the works. Not all the works. There's constant working that he's doing in me. But this was a major part of my life. This was a major part of who I was. And so now it's something I'm able to share and hopefully help somebody else that's dealing with it, because it's not over. It's not the end. And it's not the end for God to use you in whatever he needs.
Yep. Yep. So for me, take one of the most amazing examples ever from Chelsea. Her life, her story, to never give up, don't throw in the towel. Mm-hmm. And as she was talking for the past 5-10 minutes, the same verse has been playing in my head over and over and over. And the Bible talks about, to the one that endures to the end mm-hmm. will be saved. The one who endures will be saved. The one who doesn't quit will be saved. The one who doesn't give up will be saved. The one who has faith in God no matter what and doesn't throw in the towel will be saved. So just take this example from her and put it into practice in your own life, that no matter what situation you're facing, just don't give up. It is that simple.
Yep.
Yep.
That's good stuff.
Good stuff, honey.
Well, that's my take on that. This is Truett's Word on the Word, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Hey, well, stop doing that. This is my channel. You can't do that.